Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of People Who Inspire. I'm excited for today's episode. And today I have a very special guest who is going to introduce herself, of course. But I'm excited to be hosting Achiaa Kusi Dapaah. So she's a very inspirational leader and also a petroleum engineer. She's an executive director for IMPACTiNATION, which is a nonprofit that seeks to raise generational leaders. So if you are joining us today, this is People Who Inspire, PWI for short, where I try to host people whose stories are inspirational, people who have that kind of propensity to cause a change in their community. And so today will be no different. We're going to have a very exciting conversation with my guest, and we'll learn a thing or two from her life story and where she's coming from and where she's heading towards. So welcome again if you're joining me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, or if you're joining me on YouTube. This is People Who Inspire PWI series. And yes, so hello, Achiaa, how are you? Welcome to PWI. Yes, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Perfect. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Yes, I can hear you.
Doing too.
Awesome. It's always a pleasure to speak with you and to also learn more about the work you do. How's your weekend going?
It's been relaxing, and I've just been in anticipation for tonight's meeting. So I've just been relaxed, and again, I'm a football fanatic, so I've just also been looking forward to the Champions League final.
Yes. I can imagine. I mean, yeah. I think I'll also make some time to watch it. I don't follow football that much, but I'll try and make time after our conversation. So which team do you support, if I may ask?
So I'm not a Liverpool fan, but I do not like Real Madrid, so I want Liverpool to win tonight. So against
man. You're going to have a lot of the viewers who are on the opposite side, coming after you.
Sorry, Madrid fans. Hala Madrid.
Yes. Thank you so much. I mean, I truly appreciate making time for PWI today because, like I said, the vision that I have for People Who Inspire is that we get to draw inspiration and lessons from, from my point of view, everyday people who are on the journey, to making something happen for their communities, for their companies, and so forth. A lot of times when we talk to people, and I have seen a lot of interviews where we have this perception of interviewing people who have arrived in life, people who have all the cars, all the money. But for People Who Inspire, my focus is on people who are on the journey, right? The journey for me is what determines how far you're able to get to the destination. So you being here means a lot to me, and making time out of your busy schedule, to inspire us, to share your journey with us, for me means the world to me.
And it's such a pleasure and an honor to be here as well. And I'm glad that you're having me tonight. Thank you.
Yes. So I would kickstart as I usually do, where I try to maybe get a little bit into your personal life. So I mean, you are here today, you were born at some point, and then you are here today. What has happened between these two timelines? Can you share with us, like where you grew up, how you grew up, and for example, what your various stages as far as your education has also been concerned? And I'm sure as you share this, this summary, I'll be able to pick up where that leadership proclivity is really coming from. So can you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right, great. Okay, so My names are, I would talk like a Nigerian. No, my name is, my name Mame Achiaa Kusi Dapaah. And I was born in 89, 12th of April to Mr. Kusi Dapaah, Mr. Kweku Kusi Dapaah and Kusi Akwachua. I'm the last of three siblings. I have a brother and a sister. I have step siblings as well. And so I'm from a polygamous Asante home. And I grew up
Okay, you're
in
back.
Kumasi. So I am a Siano, typical Siano girl who likes to take
Sianos in the
serious.
house.
Yes, so I grew up in a suburb called Sepetimpo, and there I went to Mofetro. I mean, I went to the same school from creche to JHS 3. So I finished my
Oh,
junior
wow.
high school education in Mofetro. And I would say that the leadership acumen really started from there. And from there, I proceeded to Yasantua. So I'm an audition. I'm a true blue. Um, there as well, I was in the SRC and the Debaters Club. From there, I went to KNUST to pursue engineering. That's petroleum to be specific. And it's been petroleum engineering thereafter in the career space. And currently, I am a production petroleum engineer with GMPC, and I work on the 10 field, owned by or co-owned by Talo and partnered by Talo and GMPC and Petro SC and Anadaco. So, in terms of educational and professional life, this is me. Yes, in summary.
I love that. I love that. So I mean, if I look at you and for those of you watching, I've known each other for a bit. If I look at you and the various interactions I've had with you, you tend to have a very clear, succinct sense of purpose in everything you do. I've always realized that you are moved with this clear sense of purpose. And I mean, looking at, are you like, first of all, are you the last born or the firstborn?
I'm the last born. I'm the last of the
You're the
three.
last born.
I have a
Okay,
sister.
okay. Can you still hear me?
Yes, please, I can hear you. I'm on.
Okay. I mean, I asked these two specific questions because after interacting with a lot of people, I've come to realize that it's either these two, either the first or the last born, they have this kind of clear sense of exactly what they want. The firstborn because they are the first child, but the lastborn because they have inspiration from their elder siblings sometimes.
Exactly.
So that's why I asked. So I mean, looking at how you grew up, the various stages of your life, at what point did you first hold your first leadership role? Were you a class prefect at some point, a school prefect, or an executive or something? Can you walk us through those roles that you've held?
Yes, thank you. Interestingly, I would say that not to blow my own trumpet, but I was always that first in class girl. First in class. When I'm second,
Sharks in the house, oh Charlie, pressure.
so you can say that. So I mean, to protect um my leadership in terms of academics or in terms of being the first in class, I wouldn't take up any extracurricular prefectorial role or prefectship. I was that girl that was constantly running away from being a class prefect or DHP. I mean, there were several times people are like, because you are that good academically, why don't you take up this role? But in Mofetro, I was met with being an SU executive, which I ran away from. But my school chaplain would not have it. He was like, you have to take this up because a lot of people look up to you. So Reverend Mrs. Hagen, who later went to Wesley Girls as a deputy headmistress, was always on.
Oh,
You have to take up leadership role. So because a lot of people look up to you, and there were times I'm like, no, this is not for me. Please let me concentrate on being first in class. So it was always that Brela attitude. And we used to go for quizzes. Then we had kiddie quiz. And I'll say
Yes,
my
kiddie
elders
quiz.
really inspired because they knew I was good in school. They would constantly keep saying, "Mommy would do kiddie quiz. Mommy would do brilliant science and math quiz." So that was my focus. So if when it
Wow.
comes to being a class prefect, no. But then at a point in Mofretro in our final year, there was this club that was set up called Junior Achievers. And Junior
Yes, junior
Achievers
achievers.
trying to inspire young people to set up something like a piggy bank or a mini bank on the school compound. And I was taken to be the PRO. So I realized that my desire, even though I'm an engineer, most people say it seems like you're in the wrong profession because you like doing media stuff, PR work, communications, strategic communications, because I think it started from there. So in terms of leadership, then I went to Yasantua, and then I mean, right from first year, they were like, who is going to represent science theory class for SRC? And then everybody was like, it has to be Achiaa. You know, we are just first term, and I didn't know, but then it was a unanimous decision. And then I was made the SRC rep. And that's how, and then later I was made the house for. So I represented my house in the executive board of SU in final year. So in terms of leadership from junior and senior high, these were the positions I held up until the
Mm.
university where I really took up roles.
Okay, okay. I mean that's quite interesting because I think even speaking with some of the past guests, this came up. Like a lot of times, of course, growing up, the main focus has always been academics. Try to do well in your BEC, and then try to do well in your either your WASI or SSC in our time. That's always been the focus. So I think a lot of people who later become leaders in life had shied away from leadership, in their upbringing and in their early days. So that kind of makes sense to me a bit. So I mean, let's say now you're at Yasantua, you have been
Yes.
in the science the quiz and all that. Now, what was life like, in Yasantua? I'm asking this because a lot of people have a strong bond with their senior high school. This is
Exactly.
where many claim that their formative years became quite, let's say, relevant, and they discovered themselves. Would that be the same for you? Did you discover yourself, your true self at Yasantua? And
Absolutely.
how was it like?
Yes, absolutely. And like you rightly said, for me, the moment of discovery or the voyage of discovery began in Yasantua, where I mean, I went in again as being the best from my school, Mofratro, and not wanting to go to Gehe, even though Reverend Mrs. Hagen kept saying, you had 10 ones. And Mofretro has this MOU with Wesley Girls. Even though I didn't choose Wesley Girls, like, you could go to Wesley Girls. And I like, no. The reason I say no was because I knew that in Wesley Girls I would face stiffer opposition to be first in class. But I felt I mean, the kind of opposition would not be as fierce as Wesley Girls. And I mean, I literally live, and my mom is watching, and I know she'll be excited, but my mom virtually takes my report card to her workplace after every term and keeps waving it like my daughter was first in class again. So I needed to protect that dignity, so to speak. I needed that portfolio and that mantle. So I didn't want to. So with the back and forth, I settled for Yas. Now I come to school first, and then I realized that, Yas had an MOU also with Wesley Girls, where those who had 9 ones, but with a 2 in either French or Ghanaian language, will now come to Yasantua. So basically, I mean, to be fair, you might not be able to use French or Ghana because someone was maybe an Ashanti and she's schooling in Accra and she gets 2 in Ghana. That is someone who could have gotten a 1 in 3 if they were in
Yes.
Kuma. So it was kind of unfair. And we had this association of gay rejects in years who felt like they are. I'm sorry if you are listening. Jedida Tete was their president. So these were a bunch of aggrieved ladies who didn't like that. They chose Wesley girls and they were giving Yasantua. So they came with so much determination and resolve to prove a point that they're not making a cut to Wesley, because most of them had no idea what Yasantua was, and they were directed there because they didn't get their first choice gay. So I realized that it was not really going to be as cheap or easy as I felt like Yasantua would be. So
the squad are equally tight.
I know it was in fact more tighter, because these were people who were angered that they know they deserve their place.
They had a special drive.
Exactly, a special drive. And my good friend Jedida Tete, like she's now in the UK as a PhD student. So they had an association, so you can imagine. And so I had to now change my mindset about Yasantua and know that no, it's not a walk in the park. So the first time came, and then I was first in class. I was first in Science 3. But interestingly, I was third in the whole of science. And in years, they call up the first 10. Everybody assembled. They call up the first 10. Even if you are seated at the back, you walk to the front. And they call the last 10 as well. So everybody tried to avoid. They call the last 10 too. So I mean, here I was, second term, coming to school. I asked for first in class. I knew I'll be first in class, but I didn't know that overall there were other sharks in Science 1. So the first 2 positions were taken by girls in Science 1. I remember very well, Olivia and Jennifer. And to my shock, I was third. I was like, what? So the first in Science 3 was actually third overall. And then that really, again, shook me to the core, and every energy and drive in me and creative juice in me was activated for the next term. Interestingly, I gave my all the next term, only for me to be second in Science 3, but second overall. The first in Science 3. Yes. So for the first time in my life, I'm second, and a Chapel Hill girl who was a gay reject, Dr. Genevieve Mensah. She's I don't know where she's by. I think she was outside the country. She's a medical doctor now. She beat me by 0.47. I never forget that. 0.47. And I ran to my form master, and I'm like, there should be a remarking, because this time I pushed further, increased my marks or my grade, and then someone did extra, a gay reject. And so I mean, this is how keen Yasantua was.
Wow.
And when my name was mentioned as second, I didn't even want to get up. Like, why am I second? And that got me to say, hey, it wasn't as easy as I thought. These gay rejects, they came for a showdown. So, I mean, in my class, I could virtually count the number of people who chose yes as a first choice. Most of them were people who wanted gay, and because of this MOU thing, they had come. So it was challenging. Then the third term, I was like, no, I need to show these girls what Cianos have got. I mean, this is Yasantua. So again, I came strong. So that was my comeback game. Took up the first position in Science 3 and took up the overall first position. So you see, it wasn't a walk in the park like I thought it would be, So I eventually came out first in third term of first year, first in Science 3, first overall. And when my name was mentioned, I remember seeing my school mother at the back giving me a standing ovation and everybody clapping. And this time, the gap between me and the second person was so huge that it made the applause even louder. So that was the journey. But I remember something, my journeyings with God, when I was second and in the second term and second overall, I would constantly cry to God, like, why should I be second? I couldn't believe that I'll be second. Like, why should I be second in my own class? And I kept, so it made me start praying, praying just to be first again. But it was through that I had an encounter really for the first time at the old library of Yasantua. Then there was this day I was on the bench crying and praying to God, and singing the popular OJ song Asitna Trewoswa.
Yes.
Bewano
Yeah.
Semye.
And so
Brano
Brandon
Swai.
Bibia.
I kept
Yeah.
singing this song, and even when it should fade, it would keep going. And then suddenly I saw that my tongue had changed. And that was
Wow.
actually maybe that story for another day, but that was my encounter with God. So it was through a disappointment in academics, but it was a
Wow.
gateway for an encounter. And that's how the leadership with SU thing started. So I started reading my Bible, praying, just to be first in class. And indeed, in the third term, God came through for me, and I also worked as well. I worked hard, but grace also spoke, and I gave a huge gap, and then the rest was history. And I kept being first and first and first.
Wow. 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 I mean, this is amazing because, like I've spoken with a lot of young people, even through my innovation hub in Kumasi Hive, and some other interactions that I've had within the entrepreneurship space. There's one irrevocable, incontrovertible truth that many of us, in fact, in Ghana, almost more than 90% of people I speak with allude to specific happenings at their senior high school that changed their lives. So for some people it's academics, for others is becoming born again, for others it was self-discovery, for other people they learned how to debate, how to write, and so forth. So it's I'm always very particular about I'm particular about how how we the seriousness we attach to our senior high school period. And I think that there's a gold mine there that I think as a society we have missed out on, how to really churn out great leaders at the senior high school. Now, throughout the conversation, I've realized that you are inherently competitive. That's my impression. So I'm curious, right? How was it like growing up, at home? How was it like? I mean, is this competitive attitude from your parents? Did your parents, always ask you to study hard, or your siblings? I'm just curious where this is coming from.
I know. You are right, Prince. Very competitive, and I wouldn't even. I admit that fully, and I wouldn't even shy from that. I think, like, again, my inspiration from there is from my mom. I always look forward to the fact that, I mean, if I'm not first, my mom cannot go around her shop area, Roman Hill,
Shout
saying
out,
my
mom, if
report.
you're
My
watching.
daughter
Shout
was
out.
she was in this meeting like 20 minutes earlier, and she kept saying she's been told to wait. So mom, I learned punctuality and competition, everything from mom is never late for anything. So I couldn't be second for anything, because once I'm first in class, the thing with mom was that I never ever ran out of money ever in school since I was born. And two, I have never had to say minima san, like I've run out of provisions. No, actually, I was always having to fight with mom about how many things she's giving me to school.
Wow.
So the motivation to remain first also came from the fact that there was nothing to think or care about. There was always excess supplies for me. So all I had to do was study, because mom is doing this because be first in class for me to have the bragging rights. And interestingly, most of her friends had children in my class. So I mean, among the friends, it
Oh,
gives her
okay.
that fulfillment, because I believe that mom was good in school, but she didn't have that kind of support. So she gave her all to us, my siblings and I, and every one of my siblings will tell you we never ran out of anything. So I'll say the motivation was not just to be competitive, but again to keep a certain study score and standard, because mom has done everything. And I come from a
Wow.
broken home. So um, my father as well was that one that was the president of OWAS, Old Boys Association. And The old boys who
Oh,
had
okay.
kids in my class. So when they meet, it was always Achiaa is always stopping at children. Achiaa. So I mean, both mom and dad, there was always that push to do something to, in quotes, they are Sianos, so to give them some bragging rights, kind of, and that helped me to constantly, be diligent and maintain my first position,
Wow.
so to speak.
Wow. I mean, this
Yeah.
is I always can relate with the with the topic of the roles that mothers play. So I mean, maybe can you mention your mom's name if that's okay? Just to
Yes.
acknowledge her.
Mom was Comfort, Mrs. Comfort Opoku Jemfi, and we call her.
Okay.
She's mostly called Osi or Shala by those who know her.
Hey,
So,
wow.
Osuno.
Osuno. Hey, Charlie.
Yes, Osuno. Yes.
Wow. I can always relate with, the roles that mothers play because I myself I have a similar story. So this really is also key. I mean, if you're watching this, it tells you if you're a young parent, or I mean, if you already have kids, and it tells you the role that parenting plays in nurturing, young people. I mean, if you look at the journey of a child, for example, you can clearly tell that competitive spirit, like as I mentioned earlier, has been really fueled by the inspiration from her mom. Now, there's a quote that comes to mind whenever I think about leadership. So now I'm trying to kind of dovetail into the topic, where I think about this quote for I've been thinking about it for some time now. It was a quote from the father of Alexander the Great. I think he's called Philip of Macedonia. He said that a group of deer led by a lion is more to be feared than a group of lion led by a deer. So I'm going to repeat it again. I just want to get your thoughts on it whilst we get into your work with IMPACTiNATION, right? So Philip of Macedonia said that a group of deer led by a lion is more to be feared than a group of lion led by a deer. What do you think about this quote? I mean, do you agree with this, and what is your perspective on this?
Okay, please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, but I think your video is off.
Okay, is it
Okay, you're
okay
back.
now?
Yes, you're back. Yes, please.
Yes. I really agree with this, to the effect that leadership is the cause and every other thing is the effect, so that, and when it really comes to a troop, whether a group of deer, lions, who leads the troop or a group or an army matters much to the effect or the impact they make, even much more than the army, who the army is made up of. When there's a weak leader or a leader who is not of a certain caliber of strength or resolve. So I believe so strongly in this quote, and I think I concur.
Awesome. So, I mean, if we look at the topic of leadership and how you started IMPACTiNATION, so can you walk us through, first of all, how did you start, IMPACTiNATION, and what is really the vision? Like, what are you trying to achieve with this organization?
So I started in 2017, after about 4 years of unemployment, and I meet a group of young people, about six young people, 4 guys, 2 ladies, and we meet at Tom Reg Hotel after a church service, and then we sit around a round table, and then I'm at the head. Okay, it was actually a square, kind of like a table, and I'm at the head of a table, and then we all in unison say, this looks like a conference made up of a board or executive management. We need to, and everyone on the table happens to be my mentee or someone I'd made impact on that you would call either a son or a daughter in ministry or a mentee in professional space. So then they were like, why don't we start something? So we take pictures to that effect, and then before we realize, we are like, we can make this a full-fledged organization. So it starts as an oral, verbal communication. But I mean, after school, these are all young people I knew from KNUST. It was just one out of us that was not someone I had mentored from KNUST. And so we're like, and he happens to be an IT guy. I was like, oh, we could virtually start with a virtual organization where everything is virtual. So up until now, everything we do in IMPACTiNATION is about 80% virtual. We hardly have in-person meetings, but we have effective communication because we do a lot of strategic communication. We use every new media tool to make sure that even though we are distances apart, we are in constant communication and we check things as and when we need to. So that's how it all began. And then here we are today. The rest is history. It was just, and as we sat, one of us was like, oh, let me just get us drinks. So Kofi Jabate, God bless his soul, he was like, okay, let me just buy drinks. And we didn't plan it, but it just happened. And then Here we are today. That's how it began.
So I mean, I'm really intrigued by the work that you are doing, and the topic today is leadership and impact, right? So first of all, I mean, what has been some of the activities of IMPACTiNATION as far as leadership is concerned? I mean, if I look at the youth of today, and I've had lots of conversations with young people, there seems to be a disconnect between the communities that they grew up in and their, let's say, personal aspirations. I mean, gone were the days where you asked a young person and somehow there is a connect between what they want to do in life and their community. So you speak to someone or you ask the person, what do you want to do in future? I mean, in the past, you could easily hear that I want to be a doctor so I can save lives, right? I want to, for example, be a teacher so I can help raise the kids in my community. But these days, almost all the time you hear things about money, right? So even those who want to be medical professionals are kind of focused on the money they're going to make, or people who want to do IT are focused on the well-paid salaries within that space. So it's kind of money-driven society. And from the work you're doing, right, how, and of course from your perspective and your experience, how can we as a society address this to the youth, that beyond money there's impact?
Thanks for that, Prince. I believe, like I said earlier, that leadership is the cause, and every other thing we have seen in society is a ripple effect of the kind of leadership that society has accepted or has come to admit as the best we have. And let me hasten to add that in leadership are components. There's succession plan in leadership, there's mentoring, and it happens to be one of the most neglected components of leadership. So for us in IMPACTiNATION, our focus is on that neglected component of leadership that has been like the Achilles heel in the African society, where businesses and organizations do not thrive beyond first generation of visionaries, because we do not have a mentoring plan where a good succession plan or baton change is well effected, documented, or there's no philosophy of several organizations on how succession plan is going to work out beyond the visionary himself or herself. So for me, I believe that whatever is happening in society now, the rush for money, the haste to get money, Sakawa, and how young people are straying from the norm, the process, going through the process to be raised, serving. Because when we say leadership, basically we're talking about service. If young people want to cut corners, not serve, and just make it, fake it till they make it, name it and claim it without looking at process and working, I believe that it is because we do not have enough mentors who are dedicated to follow up and watch people grow, correct them, reprove, rebuke, encourage, motivate, and inspire. So this is what actually birthed the vision, because I realized that after school, there were no career centers. Nobody follows up on you when you are done for university. And I'm thankful for a lecturer like Dr. Achiaa of Petroleum Engineering Department, who followed up on us after school to even know where were you placed for national service. Oh no, this is not going to help you because of how specific and how the petroleum profession is structured. You will need experience even from national service to be placed in a good job. He went as far as going to the Minister of Energy at the time, to follow up. But most courses don't have that in place. We don't have career centers in the university that follows up on the graduates or the graduates to know where have they been now, where did they have their service, what skills do they need to improve on or harness, what potential should they harness to be job ready for the kind of job market we have. It's very limited. Nobody follows up on you. So if your parents are not well abreast, if your parents don't have, in quotes, whom they know or who knows them, if you don't have a politician as a relative. I come from a family on both ways that have people well placed in society or people in political space. But because at the time their party were in opposition, I struggled. And there were times I even went for interviews and I was denied or put on waiting list. I remember one particular one at Alisa Hotel. I was called that I had a job, later put on waiting list because someone in the HR went to tell some other person that, oh, this person relates so and so. So there needs to be a paradigm shift. I'm a pragmatist, so, and a maverick as well. So I look at society and I'm like, how many people without political, in quotes, godfathers or people knowing them can have access to certain fair opportunities in society, government, both public and private? There should be a bridging of that gap, and that's where mentors come in. Holding up your hand, lifting up your heads, helping you to know which ends of the rope to hold on to. And in the transition phases, when you are in job or out of job, in season or out of season, most young people were told, if you have the fire, you are anointed right after school, go into full-time ministry. But what about marketplace apostles? All these things were because most people didn't have mentors who had time, to hold their hands and then be their leaders until they can feed them, until they can feed themselves. So you just finish school and you're on your own. And that is how many of us made wrong decisions. And many ladies even became victims of sexual harassment and all that. And I actually met or encountered several opportunities that men would have taken advantage, but for the fact that I knew that I was a mentor figure to many others, and again, I had values that I wouldn't compromise on. Wow. But I'm looking at that girl going through so much, and that period is very painful. Again, maybe that will be part 2 or a story for another day, but the period of unemployment, I cannot begin to talk about the kind of pain and depression that plunged me into. So again, if I had a mentor, I think that it would have been much easier. But then I sat down one day and I said, I want to be that mentor I never had. I want to be that mentor I never had to so many others. And today, in fact, when you tell me, pardon my language, but if you tell me right now that someone is dead, I go like, oh, sorry, rest in peace. But as soon as you tell me someone is unemployed, I become all emotional and I want to go all out to help them, because whether a lady or a gent, I know that phase is very, very challenging. And so there is a need for mentors because it's actually become an endangered species. And there are not many willing to be mentors. Again, I know that it's also because most young people are in a rush, and my generation is really in a hurry because it's like we are already late and the future started yesterday. And that for me is the reason why IMPACTiNATION exists and will continue to thrive. Prince.
Wow. Wow. I like the what you mentioned regarding mentorship, and I would like to know from you, does IMPACTiNATION have like a mentorship program? And if yes, what has been, let's say, some of your activities since you started the organization? And what are some of the testimonials, if there are?
Yeah. Great. Thank you. So we started off with having, like I said, virtual, what we call virtual huddles. Then we moved on to in-person huddles, where as you have it rolling on the screen, we meet at the botanical gardens. That's where we used to meet. There were times we had it at the Achiaa Mall. What we do is to have that round table discussion, just like how our beginning was and our commencement. That spontaneity, it shouldn't really be a well scripted, formal presentation of someone just coming to speak to young people and then leaving. But they ask him personal questions. They talk to him after the meetings or the huddles. They're able to get contact or emails of the mentors who come, and then they can follow up on them. I believe that we all grew up going for Emmanuel Day to miss, springboard programs, these virtual shows, road shows, about mentorship. But then after the meeting, what next? Who is following up on how you have applied the knowledge you received? So that's where we came in. And I looked around, and there was no organization, whether civil society or government, that focused on that. The only one I found was Moremi Initiative. And with that, I was a participant. I was actually mentored by the deputy head of UNESCO at the time. We actually went to her house, so it was informal. She shared her life with us. But then afterwards, we wanted to get her contact, and she kept saying no, because she knows that sometimes, young people, when we have access, sometimes we can value and we can abuse it. So she only gave her mails, which I appreciated. But with mails, you don't have that kind of personal touch. Like if you are WhatsApping the person, is texting you back, or if you call the person and he's talking to you back, and you can tell, mentor, today has been a hard day, or this week has been hard. This is the challenge I faced at work. This is the challenge I faced whilst on my rounds trying to send application here and then they can chip in one or two. That kind of informal session and that close-up personal relation with a mentor. I realized that Moremi did a lot for us as young ladies. They chose, specific women leaders who had organizations, and then brought us together and gave us a mentor. But even with that, the impact was short-lived, because after that, life gets back to normal, life becomes sober. You will be faced with challenges, and you would feel like you should get your mentor one-on-one, but you don't have that. So I looked at it and I was like, let's structure our plan this way. After huddles, what next? So in huddles, we have the mentor come in, we have informal session, we have a bonding session where we play chess, games, we talk to one another, and then we have synergistic partnerships. So I see a young man who is into IT, another one into maybe web development. I put them together, form synergies, talk to one another. I actually make them paddy each other, and then have a mentor that they can relate to, or myself, or someone I can recommend. So what I do now is, we graduated from the huddles and we said, no, let's look at our targets. It looks like amongst us are people who have graduated looking for opportunities, or somewhere in between the transitions when it comes to career or the career ladder. So let's take it to where it matters the most. Like my quote in my profile said, you go where the need is greatest and you help the smallest. So let's go back to where it all began, to the universities. So I went back to KNUST on the eve of a family wedding, and then I saw how zealous and how ready these students were to have a mentor they could relate to. And I went talking about football, talking about everything, but still giving them nuggets for life. And we realized we can have this ripple effect in other universities. We came back and said, look, let's have another one in Legon. So we began what we call the KAS Summit. KAS is is more like an acronym. So it's just for career after school success. So
Okay. Wow.
CASS. And so career and after school success summit, where we had a mentor coming to talk about CV writing, another mentor talking about how to fish for opportunities, how to relate with mentors. So per summit, we have about 3 different mentors, and it doesn't end there. These are mentors they can easily access, have their contact, and talk to. So that is where we are at now. And currently, from the month of June, we'll be having SAME in UPSA, in Achiaa, and we're extending it even to UNER in Sunyani, and then also we are looking at even having one in UMAT before the close of the year. So we have plans to have the ripple effect or replicate that same CAS summit. It was a big success in Legon. Few days of planning, and we realized that the students were hungry for such such a platform to have mentors. Until date, they come into my inbox anytime. 1 a.m., 2 a.m., you know that you can get me, and they can ask any questions. I ask about their interests, their passions. It's something I love doing, and I believe that if more people can give back to the universities and hold them by the hand and bridge the gap between school and the professional class, I think we can help a lot more young people.
I think what you're doing is so profound, and I think we shouldn't trifle with the impact that you are making, because I mean, like yourself, I started my first organization during my second year undergrad, and we're doing exactly that, Evolve Africa, where we trained lots of students in entrepreneurship, life after school, how to prepare CVs and all that. And I remember that I shared this example. And by the time I was leaving school, I was graduating with my first degree. I had 3 years work experience. So I was giving this as an example because I started my organization around my second year, and we were actively working. In fact, by the time I was graduating, we had trained more than 2,000 students, in various capabilities. And so the gap that exists between graduates and what is relevant for the job market, it's going to be filled, by organizations like you, IMPACTiNATION, and your team, what you guys are doing. So definitely what you're doing is super crucial. Now, beyond the personal leadership level, so I categorize leadership maybe in 3 main categories. It's just my personal way of looking at it. So I see personal leadership where you're striving to be the best version of yourself, right? And beyond that, I look at community leadership, where you go beyond yourself to impact your community. And then I look at the national or global, so to speak, where it is more positional leadership, where you pick up a position so that you can amplify the impact you would want to make. Now, if you look at these various forms of leadership, right? First of all, where is the focus for IMPACTiNATION? Are you looking at the personal? Are you looking at the community or societal? Or you're looking at, churning out ethical, let's say, political leaders for the future? And that's the first question, where you find yourself in these 3 categories. And the next question is that you as a leader, right? Which is the most critical, let's say, group or category as far as impact is concerned?
Okay. All right. So to your first question, I believe that the focus for us now is the youth. And mostly when I say the youth, I mean right from the period of tertiary, where they've passed the formative ages in the high schools, and they are met with so many decisions: which course of study in the university, after school, which aspect of the course they studied, should they harness or should they work more on, and which one should they go for, who should they talk to, and all that. So IMPACTiNATION exists to help people who may find themselves in a dilemma or in between decisions and not knowing what to do. We come in as guides, we have walked the path, we've walked the road of unemployment, we've experienced the street life and all, and the professional life, and we can help provide some form of succor. The end game is that I'm looking forward to a day where we have investors and partners who would come in and say, we are giving support so that we can have career centers where someone can just walk in. We have organizations looking for specific skill sets. We already have the people we have trained and groomed through personal development platforms, and then we recommend them. Already we do that in bits. I have people who are HRs, people working for organizations, that when they are office or placement, they let me know. And if there is someone in my circle or in IMPACTiNATION who fits that role, we recommend. So we are big on the recommendation game, but we know that it can be bigger if we had the support. The essence is not to raise political leaders. We have a mindset, and our leadership philosophy is not to make people political leaders, because we believe that you do not necessarily have to be in the political space. Obviously, we know that in terms of decision making, political spaces give that highest form of control, influence in nations. But we believe that every corner that someone finds themselves, they can be as effective and can be leaders, even as employees. They do not even necessarily have to start organizations or businesses to be entrepreneurial or to be leaders, because once you can look out for a need to meet it and serve, you are a leader. So it is an apostolic youth revolution, and in this revolution, all we are saying is, every space you find yourself in, you can be that leader that bridges the gap, that brings others along, put them on your shoulders, provide succor, encouragement, motivation, and inspiration, and make sure that you are blessing a life, you are impacting a life. So the I in the IMPACTiNATION is actually the I being a nation of impact and actually impacting nations. So we are looking forward to going intercontinental. It's going global, linking nations, making sure that everywhere they find, anywhere you find yourself. So we have had mentees who have gone to Scotland. We have one in Togo right now making impact. We have a mentee in Amsterdam. We have people who have left and they carry IMPACTiNATION everywhere. Our current head of schools or the chapters that we call Galaxies in the tertiary left Ghana for his masters in Salford, and there he carried the impact fire. He's back again and he's giving back to the schools. So shout out to you, Jeffrey Kwekwa. But when he went, he kept looking for ideas. He kept looking out for people to connect to the dream, to get us more people on board to give back. So that's what we've been at. And that's what we look forward to do more in the future.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
Exactly.
And I have a few questions and comments that are coming in. So maybe we will just look at one or two of them. So this is a very important question, I think, from Stella. Stella says, is there going to be, my question is, will there be a mentoring session online, and would there be a CAS virtual session? So she's asking for a virtual session for CAS, what you mentioned earlier.
With COVID coming in, we realized that for a whole year we could virtually do. No, in 2020 we couldn't do in-person huddles. So our next one actually was in 2021, and then we had a platform where we stream. But what we do is that we have WhatsApp platforms, and now we're looking at Telegram platforms where we can have channels and stream. We can also use other streaming apps in our next CAS Summit. So that's well noted. I think we didn't do it on a bigger scale in our last CAS Summit, but Stella, for you and many others who are not around or in the country, don't worry. Just go to our website, look at the numbers, they'll be connected to our platform. As and when we have the CAS Summit, we put you, we make sure we send the link so you can join our virtual summit as well. Yes.
Awesome. And I have also this comment from Apostle Baja. He says, "Great mentorship and leadership strategy." This is
Thank you,
just came
sir.
through.
He's
Yes.
one of my mentors and a man I so greatly esteem and learned a lot from in terms of leadership. He gave me one of my earliest leadership platforms, so I salute him and God bless him. And I am here because I met a man like him. I'm a product of many great meetings, and he is that one that stands out. Until today, he's that one I keep going back to when it gets very challenging. So thank you, sir.
Amazing. And I can 100% concur with your comment because I have also personally, been mentored in so many ways by Apostle Baja right from secondary school when he mentored us, myself, Kojo Samwood, Stylish, the squad. And he's still been that person who we look up to, as far as our purpose is concerned. In fact, I got to understand leadership extensively from him because he was at the time the preaching group president back in Infant Swim School. And eventually I ended up becoming the president of preaching group as well. So it just tells you that he really groomed a lot of us to follow in his footsteps. So Apostle Baja, I want to say a big thank you for joining.
Thank you. We salute you. Yes.
Yeah. So there's another one here. If you can see on the screen, it says, "I'm a living testimony of your work. You really built us into passionate leaders who are serving at every capacity."
I'm humbled. Thank you.
So yeah, I mean the comments are coming through. Lots of them are coming through. So many comments. I'm even losing track of them. So to wrap up, right? I'm just looking at for those of you watching, if you want to support IMPACTiNATION, I've always said that this platform, the PWI platform, people who inspire, I'm looking at people who are on the journey. I'm not focused on people we perceive to have arrived in life. I'm looking at people who are grinding, people who are trying to make an impact, create, a better world for posterity. So if you're watching currently right now and you want to support, either financially or non-financially, I'm going to put on the screen how you can reach out to IMPACTiNATION and Achiaa and her team. So if you're connected right now and you're watching us, you can check on the screen right now. Visit their website, www.impactination.org. That's .org. And they have 2 mobile numbers that you can reach out to them on: +233, that is if you're outside Ghana, 20-726-4606. And also the next number is +233 209 058 663. So if you're watching and you want to support them, and what I know with these non-profit organizations, because I started one myself, is that we need both financial and non-financial support. So you can say that, look, you're based in Europe, you want to donate books, right? So that IMPACTiNATION can, use the books in their CAS outreach when they go to the various Galaxies, for example. I mean, the various branches in the schools. They can either donate these books or use these books as manual to train the next generation of leaders. Or you can say that, look, I want to make a pledge that on a monthly basis, I'm going to give $20, I'm going to give $100. I mean, whatever it is in your might. Or you can say that, look, I want to be a mentor. I want to dedicate maybe 2 hours of my time every month, every week, to mentor some of the students that IMPACTiNATION gets to enroll. So the number and the contact is on the screen now. Please feel free to reach out to them. In wrapping up, Achiaa, I've been thinking a lot about leadership, and one of the things that I see, I mean, we can see a lot of the gaps, a lot of the challenges, but I'm also optimistic, right? So if I look at people like yourself, and for those who are even in the comments, Louise Eduamoa and all, Dorothy Esenam, all those wonderful people. If I want us to look at an optimistic view of the kind of leaders that we want to raise for tomorrow, right? What would be, from your point of view, your topmost, let's say, activity? Like, what should we do today as a people, as a society? What should we do today that will create that optimistic view that we want to see? That we want to see, let's say, a Ghana where young people are selfless. We want to see a Ghana where leaders, put the needs of their constituents above their own personal needs. We want to see, let's say, a Ghana devoid of bribery and corruption. All these optimistic views, right? What should we do now, today, from your point of view, right? Practical, like you said, you're pragmatics as well. So what should we do in a practical sense that can safeguard this optimistic view of the future that I've just described?
Okay. If I heard you correctly, can
So
you
I can
just
repeat
try
myself.
to
Yeah, I can
repeat?
repeat.
Yes, I think the line was
Yeah.
kind.
Yes. Okay, no problem. So in looking at leadership, there's a tendency to always look at a pessimistic view, like what is missing, and then we talk about all the problems. But if you want to look at the optimistic view, right, of the future, I want to see, let's say, a Ghana devoid of corruption, a Ghana where young people are more selfless and are eager to create an impact in society, a Ghana where there's equity, a Ghana where, women are given the same opportunity in leadership and so forth. Now, in order to see or to have this optimistic view materialize, what should you do today? I mean, your view, what is the topmost practical things that we should do today to safeguard this optimistic view of, maybe a utopian society or a better Ghana or a better society tomorrow? What should we do today to have this optimistic view come into fruition?
Okay, so I believe strongly that no society develops beyond its primary mindset. And that mindset should be well fueled with a system of the 3 V's that I have coined, or as I call it. And these 3 V's are, which I call the V's vehicles. But the first one is a good value system, our values, our vision, and then our virtues. If we have these 3 V's in place, which is, you could call the fourth a vehicle, or which is the vehicle that carries these 3 things as wheels, I believe that as a society or a nation or even a continent, we can begin to change certain fundamental challenges that we've been grappled with over the years. That, for me, I believe that if Africa can work again, we need to have values that places the collective interests above personal gains. Most of the issues and challenges of the day is because of greed, and because very few people are amassing what should be fairly distributed among the masses or the general class. So until the divide between the middle class and the upper class and the lower class is bridged through one, education, mentorship, and leadership and skill training development programs, I believe that it will be very challenging. And then with vision, we need to have development plans in place. Those in the West have 40-year development plan. We started that in Ghana. We even have a secretariat for it. But you ask yourself, what has become of it? We need to have a vision where we have development plans well structured for the youth, for children, for even the aged. We don't have good working welfare systems. We need to realign our vision to the developing world and to the changing times if we are really going to make a headway. In that, I am optimistic that we can be at par, if not overtake, those who have gone ahead of us. And lastly is the virtues. Like we all know, weightier matters of justice, mercy, love, compassion, and thinking more about your brother, being your brother's keeper, being a watchman that is watching, and making sure that if someone drops or litters, you tell them, pick them up. You don't say it is not in front of my house, so it is not in me to say. In fact, in IMPACTiNATION, we believe that everybody is a mobile signboard for mentorship. When you see a child going astray, you as an adult, even if you are not an adult, is your age mate or even a senior, you can chip in a word of wisdom to correct wrong notions and wrong mindsets. It begins with one person at a time, a step at a time. And I believe that with that, this is the vehicle that would propel our nation, our society to make a headway. And in that, I'm optimistic that we are that generation. We are that generation that would really make a change, because I see many people like yourself and so many young people making giant strides in this space. And I believe that we can have a paradigm shift if we keep drumming this, sounding this. It will not go in 1 year or even 10 years. But I'm optimistic that in a couple of years to come, with more leaders like us and we raising many others into this mindset, we will be able to make impact in society.
That's amazing, amazing. So this is going to be my last question, and I want to put you on the spot. Would you run for president of Ghana? Because that's the material I see right now.
Well, for now, that's not on the cards, but let's see where destiny and fate and purpose and God will have us. But if only duty calls and nation calls, and we believe that we are well prepared and up for it with nothing hindering, why not? I'll take that up. But for now, president, no. But I want to be that I want to be that youth president wherever I go, that young people can freely open up to cry on my shoulder, take inspiration. But I want to be that cheerleader that is at every speech and prize giving day, cheering young people up, telling those who could not get prizes that, hey, it's not the end of the world. You have other potentials you can harness, even if you are not good with this line of academics or that. I want to be that youth president and that mentor that every young person can open up to about anything, music, food, sex, everything that they cannot even open up to their parents about. Yeah.
Wow, I like that. I like that. So, thank you. That was my last question. There's a comment from, I think, Eric Norte. Eric says, "Hi, I'm Eric, a development planning student from KNUST. I would like to add development contribution where necessary demand." So I'm sure he just wants to contribute. So Eric, if you are still watching, please go to the contact information I have put on the screen, and you can see all the necessary information to use to get in touch with IMPACTiNATION and Achiaa and her team. So we are 15 minutes above the time. So what would be your final words, Achiaa, to our cherished viewers? Okay, so I think Achiaa is reconnecting. Yes, we are back. So Eric, so Eric, please use the contact information on the screen. You want to contribute in any form or shape, you can reach out to them. So we are 15 minutes way above the time because the conversation was just exciting. So Achiaa, what would be your final words to our viewers as we wrap up this session?
Well, first and foremost, I would like to say thank you, Prince, for having me. And it's been an amazing discourse, and I wouldn't trade this for any time. Kindly do have me back some other time. I've really enjoyed it.
Yes. We'll do that.
Yes. And because I'm also a pastor, so probably another time we can look at ministry.
Exactly.
which is
Exactly.
one
We'll do
aspect,
that.
which is one aspect of my life that has been left out. Yeah, it's one aspect of my life that I didn't really talk so much about, but that forms the basis and foundation for almost everything that I am and everything that I know. So we can look at that the last time. So to young people out there,
Yes.
I want to encourage you out there, especially if you're unemployed. Yes. And if you are going through that phase of unemployment, I want you to know that it's not always going to be dark. Just get your CV well prepared, get someone, an expert to help you write your CV very well. Wake up Monday morning, dress up, walk to offices with boldness. Tell them what you can offer, not necessarily what is even on a CV. If there are needs you have identified in organizations in your community, walk to the HR, tell them you want to speak to the CEO. That confidence may earn you a 5 minutes opportunity to pitch an idea that can help the organization grow. And who knows, you might be en route to your next job. I had my first internship in ASEP through that kind of um, recommendation and access. And I want to thank Justice Adoboy who made that possible. But again, leverage relationships. Like I said, my quest is to impact my generation with the quality of my person. Make sure that you are working on that person, which is you, is the most important asset you have and the most important aspect of your life. Give to it every day. Keep reading. Search on the net. Don't only be using social media for TikTok videos that might not contribute to career development. Go on LinkedIn. Look out for people in your career space that have made it. Follow them. Sometimes write well drafted messages inbox. I did that to about 200 people when I was unemployed between 2013 and 2015. So I want you to know that there is a space out there for you. You would have to follow your desires with pursuit, and that pursuit may come with resilience, perseverance. But to the young ladies, please don't compromise on your values because you want a job. If you have to have sex with a man to get a job, you may have to maintain that sexual relationship to keep that job. But there's so much in you that you do not have to go through that route. So I want to encourage you. You can always reach out to us through the numbers. We are just a hi away. We'll be ready to talk to you, give you help as and when you need. For now, we don't run a bank, so we might not be able to give you financial help as much. But just let us know what your challenges are. And even if we cannot readily give you help, we may recommend how you can get help in one way or the other. So please don't harm yourself. Suicide is not an option. If you are going through depression, call the number, send us a message. IMPACTiNATION is there to give you a hand. And unemployment is just a phase, it's a stage, it's a transition. You look back many years after and be glad that it was a process that honed you and honed your craft and helped you to be more circumspect in life's choices. So I wish you all well in your endeavors. And I love you, young people. There's nothing you can do about it. Thank you, Prince.
Yeah.
Thanks for the platform.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Achiaa, for your time and also sharing with us these nuggets of wisdom and also the work you're doing with IMPACTiNATION. So I want to say a big thank you, and also to my viewers. I want to say a big thank you because without you, this show would not have been possible. So those of you who sent in your comments, who sent in your questions, and so forth, I want to say a big thank you for joining today's episode of People Who Inspire, which is also known as the PWI series. God willing, next week, I'm going to have another guest. So join me again next week, Saturday, as we speak to the next guest for People Who Inspire. So until then, I would like to say a very big thank you once again to my guest and also to each one of you who have tuned in. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.